This is the You, Me, and BTC podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to episode 44. First up this week is an interview with Brent James from Trucoin. The company is rolling out services that will allow people to quickly buy Bitcoins with a credit or debit card. Mr. James will explain how it all works and why it's extremely beneficial to the community. Then later in the show, we'll be chatting about some researchers from MIT who were able to accurately predict the Bitcoin exchange rate and doubled their money in a short time. Active investing is some risky business, but the experiment is interesting nonetheless. Then to wrap things up this week, we have a brand new segment from John Stuart called Bitcoin and the Arts. You definitely don't want to miss that. John will be sharing a bit about a painting called Eye of God that recently sold for 35 Bitcoins. And he'll explain why the painting itself and this sale are both so meaningful. Stay tuned for an awesome show. Your hosts are Tim Baker, John Stuart, and myself, Daniel Brown. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the show today. This is the You, Me, and BTC podcast. I'm Daniel Brown, and I'm here with John Stuart.
Hey.
And we're really excited because we're sitting down right now with Mr. Brent James from Trucoin. That's TRU Coin. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. James.
No problem, Daniel and John. Thanks for having us.
So, first question is always really easy. Just tell us about Trucoin. What is it?
Yeah, so Trucoin has been around since 2011, actually. So we've been in the space for quite a while. And most recently, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, we did a pilot program, and it was a successful launch of the fastest way to buy Bitcoin. And what that was is 8-state launch that allowed our pilot program customers to purchase Bitcoin with a debit or credit card using a Visa or MasterCard. And that went extremely well. We launched to 8 states and didn't have any chargebacks. And we decided to close up the pilot program so that we could extend our coverage to more states. And this week, we're actually circling back around to soft launch back to our pilot program customers. And then shortly thereafter, we'll begin to let in a list of folks that we have around 20,000 or so that are waiting. And then we'll just grow it out to more states from there.
All right, that's really cool. Now, when you start getting into credit cards, the first thing that people are concerned about, especially when you're involved with Bitcoin, where there really is no such thing as a chargeback, is, what is that like? How do you deal with the risk?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Bitcoin is definitely, it presents a challenge, for us because obviously, to your point, it's kind of an irreversible transaction from our end, extending our customers to Bitcoin. And then we assume liability, right? Because we're accepting a reversible form of payment. So we've taken a lot of time and care, in terms of our fraud, mitigation measures. So there's a lot going on under the hood, but the goal was to deliver a really easy to use product that didn't require the customer to do very much at all, and we kind of internalize most of our fraud mitigation stuff and kind of make it a seamless experience for the user. So we take into account a number of different factors. It is sort of a proprietary thing, more or less, but what you'll see is during our soft launch, and then as we extend it to more of the general public, you'll see that we collect a little bit of information. Some of that is compliance related because we are a fully compliant entity in the jurisdictions that we operate. And then some of that is also used for confirming the identity of the users that have signed up and become our customers. We do things like when you add a debit or credit card We'll do a split charge, on the debit or credit card and ask you to log into your financial institution and retrieve 2 micro charges, similar to some other financial institutions that do that. So yeah, we take a number of different measures to try to ensure that we're not letting in fraudsters or folks that are, stealing people's identity and so forth.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Seems like you got some things under control, and that's definitely helpful. Can you tell us kind of what your goals are with Trucoin, why you created it, and what you want to accomplish with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the course of the last few years, I think digital currency and more specifically Bitcoin has come a long way in terms of public perception and actually usability, right? Because we have a lot of big names coming into the space that are now accepting Bitcoin. It's becoming more ubiquitous worldwide. So what we recognized, there's a bottleneck on the consumer side of things, meaning there's not enough Bitcoin in enough people's hands. And part of the reason for that is, some of the existing methods to acquire Bitcoin can be time consuming. We live in a world where people like instant gratification, right? So a lot of people are kind of averse to, even trying out Bitcoin or something new that they might not, fully understand. And then when they're faced with the proposition of having to wait, 5, 6 days, maybe 8 days, depending on the process of linking an account and then actually waiting to receive Bitcoin, that kind of is a turnoff. So we saw the opportunity to be able to do a couple of things. One, shorten the cycle. So what we do is get our customers in a matter of minutes to be able to register and add a card and purchase and acquire the Bitcoin. The second, piece to that is we wanted to kind of do what's happened in a few other examples of new technologies emerging. A couple examples come to mind. When, MP3s first came out, they weren't exactly easy to use. They're a little clunky with some of the offerings that were out there. And then, companies like Apple came along and made the interface and the devices such that the average person didn't have to know how compression worked or anything like that. They could just buy the devices and use the software that they were kind of familiar with and enjoy the experience. The same thing, sort of happened in the VoIP space. Early on, it was more of a computer to computer thing. And now just about, every single phone call that's made has some leg of VoIP in it. So we kind of see digital currency in the same light, to be something that the easier we can make it on the average everyday consumer, the more mainstream it'll become. And so that's kind of what we've set out to do in our first early phases is to get it in people's hands.
Yeah, that's great. That's something we talk about a lot, how we think Bitcoin has a lot to offer everybody. It just kind of we need to add a little bit more abstraction and just make it easier for normal people to use. I guess something else we'd like to know is there are a lot of different exchanges and different ways out there to buy Bitcoin. So can you kind of give us some stats maybe to compare you guys to some other people? How much traffic do you get and things like that?
So as I mentioned before, we started out several years ago, and early on in the process, it's been watching the technology kind of grow, because there weren't a lot of merchants accepting Bitcoin back in 2011 and even into 2012. But as some other companies kind of made some headway, and some of the bigger companies started to kind of catch wind of some of the different types of innovation that could happen around the technology, things began to get a little easier. What we set out to do is a little bit different than some of the existing companies that are out there that, either are exchanges or brokers, as it were. We went the route of saying, in the past, there have been innovations that suffered because maybe they didn't take the right legal approach. And so we wanted to make sure that we could build a company around a foundation that would be solid. And so we kind of took the approach of addressing compliance and potential regulation first. And so that kind of, made us a little bit late to the market in terms of actually delivering our product. So in terms of stats, nothing super impressive to date, but we've had over time, lots and lots of signups. So I think I mentioned earlier, we have something along the lines of about 20,000 folks that are waiting. And during our pilot program, we saw a lot of activity. We haven't spent any money on advertising. We really believe in under promising and over delivering. So we haven't really been, hyping anything up per se. What our approach really is to offer it up and to enhance it and make it as palatable to, consumers as possible. And then we can obviously, promote around that. I think we have some really, really exciting things that are on the horizon for us towards the end of the year. And I can't really speak to it just yet, but I think that Trucoin will establish itself as a brand over the coming couple of months.
That's cool. Can you tell us what are the rates like compared to other exchanges?
Sure. Well, so because of the fact that, you guys touched on it earlier, Bitcoin in terms of being something that is purchased through means of credit card or debit card can be seen as somewhat of a risky proposition to the existing payment processors that offer merchant accounts right now. So, because of that, we've been having to, basically kind of prove out what we're doing. And like I said, the pilot program went a long way towards that. Not having any chargebacks has really helped us in terms of being able to actually even, acquire merchant accounts and so forth. So our rates will be a little bit higher maybe than you'll see at some of the exchanges, but that will come down over time. And, I think what you'll see is, whenever we're able to leverage what we're doing and keeping, an honest, trustworthy user base that helps us when we turn around and we leverage that, and then we pass those savings on to the customers. So they'll be a little bit higher maybe than folks are used to, but over time that'll come down quite a bit. And I think there is a value still, to be able to maybe be on the sidelines and not own any Bitcoin and be able to take action. As we saw recently, there was a little bit of a dip in the Bitcoin price, and I think it was a good time for a lot of people to say, hey, maybe I'll get involved now, that it's come down a little bit, but it's kind of difficult when you have, low limits, let's say on maybe some of the existing options, or you have to, cart yourself down to a Western Union or a MoneyGram or something like that. That can be unattractive to folks that have been on the sidelines. And then, as if you have to, connect a bank account or something, that's going to take days, and you may have missed the window, the buying price that you wanted. So we look to close that gap, and then over time, as the rates come down, it'll be even more and more attractive to folks.
Yeah, we talk about how it can be a little clunky buying Bitcoin sometimes. So I think it's, for a lot of people, it is definitely worth slightly higher rates to have that ease of use.
Yeah, I think I agree. I am not at all a fan of going to MoneyGram or anything like that. I don't like going anywhere to spend money or to do anything. And I guess that's part of the reason I'm into Bitcoin at all, is because I can do it from home usually. I can even do a trade while I'm in bed or something. But anyway, so I have to say I'm pretty interested in this service because this is kind of some interesting timing, but literally just over the past several days, 3 or 4 days, I think I've had every single transaction I tried to make on Coinbase canceled. They just rejected it. And the problem is they haven't done it till a couple of days later. And like you said, the price can change in a few days, and they don't even tell me that it was rejected for some time. So yeah, I just have to say I'm definitely interested in what you have to offer. Can you tell me what I would have to do if I wanted to get involved? I know you mentioned that you're starting to get some things going and everything. If I did want to get involved, what would I have to do?
Right. So right now, like I said, we're opening it back up to the customers that were part of the pilot program in 8 states. Will be over the next couple of weeks, there'll be, about 24 states that we'll be supporting. So what you would do is, if you're in one of these states, and we'll be publishing, information, and if you sign up on the website right now, you'll receive, some updates and some information on when it will be available in your area. But if you're in one of the areas within the next few weeks, you'll receive access, and it's pretty simple. What we aim to do is to allow people to go from, having no Bitcoin whatsoever to actually taking possession of Bitcoin, just in a matter of minutes. So what you do is just, you'd actually go to the site, you'd log in. We use either Facebook, LinkedIn, or Google, and that just helps, make it easier on the customer. It's a faster process to get you logged in. It does allow us, to kind of help with some other pieces that are compliance and fraud mitigation related, but it's really fast. You'll have a lot of your stuff pre-populated already. You'll provide an address. You'll answer, some questions that allow us to verify your identity. And then once you've done that, you will have an account created. That should take no more than, let's say, 2 minutes max. The next step you'll take is a debit card or credit card. So using either a Visa or MasterCard, you'll add a card, which is also a very simple process. Same kind of process that you'd have, like I said, at some other financial institutions. You'll just add the card details. You'll add a CVV. What we'll do is initiate 2 micro charges, split charges, that you'll then retrieve, either from an app in a phone, or you'll just log in through your browser. And then once you've retrieved those, you come back to your account, enter those in, and once that's verified, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. And as soon as you purchase Bitcoin, within a matter of minutes, as you know, with the Bitcoin technology, we can issue that straight away. And so, start to finish, we've had people buy in, 2 minutes or less. So there isn't any kind of waiting on, when the Bitcoin's going to get to your wallet, or did the transaction go through or not. It's a pretty instant process, and usually get the price that you'd locked in.
All right. Yeah, that sounds pretty simple. And like I said, I'll be looking forward to seeing what that's like and maybe even trying it out. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we'll make sure you guys are on the whitelist to get you access here in the next couple of days.
Sounds good. Well, one thing that's a little different, but we like to do it with all of our guests, is we ask for some kind of personal story in the Bitcoin space. Really anything goes here. Whatever you want to tell us about, something interesting, somebody you met, something weird, funny, anything at all. If you can think of anything that people might be interested in. I know it's not related to Trucoin, but just for fun, we ask all our guests this, at least when we remember to. So, you have anything like that?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the stories that maybe people may share could be related to, when they were first told about Bitcoin, or when they first discovered it, and what the price was, and what their reaction was, and did they or didn't they acquire it, at a certain price, or did they sell, at a certain price. So my story would relate to Chris Bruner, is the co-founder of Trucoin, and he actually told me about Bitcoin very early on in 2010, and he and I were sitting down and discussing it, and I was ready to take a little bit of a gamble. And at the time, if you can imagine, there weren't very many, let's say, ways that you would feel, trustworthy ways, I guess you'd say. You didn't know a lot of the folks that were involved in it. They might not know you, and there weren't any websites that you could go to purchase it or anything like that. So I'd queued up, let's say, a decent amount of money that I had kind of earmarked to purchase. And, I got a little bit of cold feet, just depositing money into someone I didn't know's accounts, on this new concept that I barely understood at the time, right? So fast forward, about a year later, may have been a little less than a year, and I think it was hovering around, $4 or something. So I got involved then, and I'm happy that I did. But yeah, I mean, 80 some odd cents, a missing opportunity like that will stick with you for a while. But more than anything else, I think we're just really excited to be in the space. I think the future of digital currency, it's in its infancy. The future is yet to be written. And so, we're just trying to play our part in moving this forward, and just to bring it full circle, as we talked about, bringing Bitcoin to the mainstream. I think that's where the future is, and that's where things will really start to get exciting, when the average person starts to realize, the power of being able to, to store your own value, and to kind of have autonomous control over over your money, over your value, and you don't have to worry about vaults in your house or anything like that. It can be accomplished very easily in different ways. So we're excited about that. I mean, we want to bring this first iteration of Trucoin to the public, and be very transparent on fees, and introduce the highest purchasing power, daily purchasing power possible to our customers. So I think you guys will be impressed with the amount that you can spend on a daily basis with us, and support is a big deal for us as well. So we're excited, and we're going to be launching this week. So
awesome. Well, thank you for the interview. Before we wrap things up, can you let us know how to contact you? Give us maybe how to get to your site and how to contact you personally, if that's what you
absolutely
want to give out.
Yeah. So obviously you can go to trucoin.com, trucoin.com, or you can actually visit us. We have a subreddit for our community of users or people that are just kicking the tires and have general questions. So that's r/Trucoin, and then we're on Twitter as well at Trucoin. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, we love to engage our customers. So feel free to email me. It's bjames@trucoin.com, and look forward to fielding any questions or talking to folks and get some more users.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, that was awesome. This was Brent James from Trucoin. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
All right, guys. Daniel, John, take care.
You're listening to the You, Me, and BTC podcast. We need your help. First of all, we'd love it if you could check out our website, youmeandbtc.com. There you can find donation addresses for every single article and episode, and we'd love it if you could make use of those. We could also use some fans and followers, so if you're willing, please visit Facebook or Twitter.com/youmeandbtc. Lastly, remember to subscribe to the show. You can do that on iTunes or sign up on our website to receive email updates. Thanks for your support.
Okay, so I found this article this morning. It's from about a week ago, October 21st. A week ago from the time of recording this, which will be not the time that you're hearing it. It's from MIT News, MIT, the college. It says, earlier this year, principal investigator Devavrat Shah, I think is how you say his name, but I'm probably butchering it, and a recent graduate, Kang Zhang, I hope that's right too, they collected price data from all major Bitcoin exchanges every second for 5 months, accumulating more than 200 million data points. And then they used what's called Bayesian or something like that. I don't know how to say that either. I'm just sounding like a fool right now. Bayesian regression.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
They use that to train an algorithm to try to look for patterns in the data. And according to them, they're able to predict the average price movement of Bitcoin over 10 seconds. It says every 2 seconds they can predict the average price movement over the following 10 seconds. So what they did was they set a threshold, like a low threshold and a high threshold, I guess, and they would buy and sell Bitcoin anytime something crossed their threshold. And I guess over 50 days, they made an 89% return on the investment, so they almost close to doubled their investment on it. Yeah, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of an interesting experiment, and it's cool to see people kind of messing around with Bitcoin for this kind of stuff. Well, we'll probably talk about some of the comments that people were putting on this, because some people kind of seem to think it's stupid, or it doesn't really make that much sense, or it was kind of just like a coincidence or something. I'm not really sure. Some people said some things that made me not quite sure exactly how this algorithm that they trained exactly works, because one guy seemed like he was saying that they just they looked at 3 exchanges basically, and then they were like predicting that the 4th one would just follow suit. I'm not sure if that's exactly what was happening, but
Yeah, I guess it just depends on exactly how they did the study, which I don't know that exactly because I didn't read the whole paper. It looked pretty technical. So it kind of depends on that, but I guess just what this guy is saying, or a couple people in the comments, I guess, they're saying that they didn't account for the exchange fees and for the bid-ask spread. And I can see what they mean. I mean, if you just go by like the last prices at different exchanges, yeah, sure, one's going to be higher and you could say, oh, there's an opportunity to make money. But that's not always true because it costs money to actually do the exchange, and sometimes the bid-ask spread kind of cancels out that profit that just shows up when you only look at the last prices. So that's kind of what they're saying, and yeah, I guess it just depends on exactly how they did it, but still, it's just a cool idea in general. I mean, just the idea of predicting anything is kind of cool.
yeah.
It even said in here somewhere that they did this to predict trending Twitter topics one time, so yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think I'd have to read about the Twitter thing because I'm not sure how that exactly worked. But, I mean, they said it's like for 2 seconds of collected data, they can predict up to 10 seconds in the future. And really, unless you're just trying to, like, make some money off of it, that's not really useful for very much. Like, that's one of the things that people in the comments kind of pointed out, that this doesn't do anything for your long-term predictions. It doesn't really... Yeah, you can't really make long-term predictions with this. And I guess from the point of view of somebody who's actually into Bitcoin for itself and not just trying to make money off of it, the price is supposed to get stable at some point. So I don't know. This is only useful at this point in time, really, maybe. Well, somebody's like, sounds like another great innovation for Bitcoin advocates, which I don't really understand what it doesn't really do anything for Bitcoin advocates. And then a guy commented on that, yeah, until everyone starts doing it, making the currency even more volatile, which is actually funny because farther down in the comments, people are talking about how if everyone started trading like this, it would make the price actually more stable.
Well, that's true, yeah. I mean, anytime people are playing the markets and doing arbitrage or whatever, that does bring the prices together. Well, actually, I guess that's not the same thing as stability. It just makes the prices from different exchanges more consistent. But still, I guess.
Well, I think it's more just the high volume trading.
Okay.
Because this thing is looking like hundreds of times a day to see if the price is passing this. Like, it sounds like to me... Well, I mean, yeah, it's looking hundreds of times a day, and I don't know how many times out of those hundreds it's actually making a trade.
Well, right. It doesn't say how often they actually did the trades. It just says that they did it, you know, whenever the predicted change was above or below a certain threshold. And
yeah.
It doesn't actually say how often that happened, just that that's when they did it. So we don't really know how often they traded.
Did it say at all how much they initially invested?
No, it doesn't really.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Well, it does say that they bought or sold a whole Bitcoin anytime they crossed the threshold. So that doesn't answer everything, but
the thing is,
yeah, but you're making like little bits. I'm talking like how much money they doubled. That's more I was meaning.
Well, they doubled the whole entire initial investment.
Yeah.
The thing about that selling it and buying an entire Bitcoin, I'm a little hesitant about because, I don't know, it doesn't sound like this was written by somebody who knows that much about Bitcoin necessarily. And some people don't like understand that you can sell parts of a Bitcoin. So they might have just been like, they sold a Bitcoin, not really knowing what that means, or not realizing that you don't have to buy or sell an entire one.
Right. That's definitely possible.
I mean, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but I wasn't totally sure on that, if it was accurate or they were just kind of saying something.
It's also near the end, it says he was half joking about this, so they didn't actually do this, but he was saying they could have used it to predict the accuracy of astrology predictions, so that's kind of funny. But, well, yeah, and then still just the idea of, modeling things and collecting data and stuff, that's cool. And actually, I think the availability of so much data is part of the reason it says that they decided to do this experiment with Bitcoin. It's because there's all these exchanges out there logging prices in real time, and that's a ton of data, and that's great for making models and doing these kind of predictions.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest thing about this, really, just that it's kind of become something that people can study and learn other things from.
Although one guy did say that they tried to do the same thing with stocks, I think actually 25 years ago he was saying, but probably a lot of people do it.
There's a lot of people who try to do stuff like this.
Right.
It's not like a singular thing. People are always trying to do that. And
right.
Just because it works at one point doesn't mean that it's going to work at any other point.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say, is that it's possible that, I don't know, maybe they just got lucky or something. But that doesn't change the fact that they're still just researching this stuff and learning stuff and modeling data and things like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I guess you're right, Tim. It does seem like there are people in the comments who think this is, I don't know, kind of dumb and it doesn't really mean anything and stuff like that. So you never know.
Well, I don't know what it's supposed to mean. Like, I don't get what the point of this, besides just reporting that someone is doing this, I don't understand what else it's supposed to do. Because
make you money.
Oh, I mean, if that's...
And I think it's more just like, I don't know, it almost sounds like one of those things where like nobody can predict Bitcoin. It's just this wild, volatile thing, and they're trying to show that they're smart enough to do it or something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's the headline is like MIT computer scientists can predict the price of Bitcoin. So that to me just sounds like it's kind of just like a bragging rights thing or something.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I completely understand the point of the program. If I had the program, I'd use it, but I didn't know if maybe the article was for trying to say something else with it.
Well, it's an MIT news site, so it's just because it's people from the school. They're just kind of covering it.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you to some extent, Tim. Just the fact that maybe there's actually not a ton here, other than just research on predictions and stuff like that. I mean, because this is out of MIT, and that's what they do at colleges, is research stuff like that. And yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, you might be right, Tim. Maybe there's not a ton. And I would remind people just that you need to be careful with your money, because there are quite a few trading bots out there, Bitcoin trading bots, that will watch the exchanges just like this and make trades for you and try to make you money. I don't think they would probably use the same algorithm, but the same ideas of predicting and stuff like that. And yeah, I would just say those are cool, and if you want to just mess around with them, you can, but just be careful. Don't put all your money into it. I mean, don't put any money into it unless you're willing to lose it, because these things aren't perfect. No matter how much research you do, it could be wrong. So, yeah, I just would tell people to be careful with your money like that.
No, because nothing's a sure thing, especially when it's a computer predicting something that's driven by human behavior or a mixture of human behavior and other bots. So there's a lot of variables in there.
Yeah, anytime there's human behavior involved, it's unpredictable by definition, maybe.
Hey folks, this is John Stuart, and I am speaking to you right now, actually by myself. This is kind of a new little segment that we're going to try out for a little while and see how it goes. It's going to be called Bitcoin and the Arts. At least that's what it's going to be called for right now. If we can come up with something better, it might change. We'll see. This is kind of an idea that we've had kicking around for a little while. Daniel kind of wanted to think of some new things that we could do to kind of spice up the podcast or the website a little more. Just something that people could look forward to or that might help us stand out a little bit. And this is one of the ideas we came up with. I'm excited about it because there seems to be a lot of focus on the technological aspects of Bitcoin and the economic aspects of it, which, don't get me wrong, I think that's probably the most important thing about Bitcoin. But there are some other sides of it that aren't really getting covered as much right now, and I think this could be a cool opportunity to explore those. So my goal is kind of just to see if I can dig up things about Bitcoin and the arts. Maybe it'll be ways that Bitcoin is helping artists, or I just find a cool artist who happens to endorse Bitcoin that I think is worth talking about, or it might be ways in which Bitcoin inspires artists or enables them to do things that they couldn't do otherwise. I'm not really sure yet. I'm just going to go with it and see what I can dig up. Part of this is an exercise for me to get more involved in the community, but I think it's also a great way to maybe focus on some aspects of Bitcoin that don't get as much time in the spotlight that I think are still really important. You know, when we were at the Bitcoin in the Beltway conference, I remember Davi Barker from Bitcoin Not Bombs and Hoodie the Homeless saying that people often tell him that he has the best logo in Bitcoin, which I find hard to disagree with. He seemed to think that people are kind of lacking a little bit of creativity maybe. People don't know how to brand themselves as much in Bitcoin. So maybe if we can focus on the creative side a little bit, we can change that. And I hope anybody listening to this enjoys it or finds it interesting, because in the end, that's why we're here. Either way, I'm sure you'll love listening to me wax poetic and pretentious about this kind of stuff, and you can count how many times I say the word interesting, too. So, for my first Bitcoin in the arts segment, I'm going to talk about the Eye of God painting. This is a painting by an Israeli artist named Zania Dorfman. I should mention first that this is an article from CoinDesk that was posted on October 27, 2014, just for posterity's sake. So this is a painting called The Eye of God that was created by Zania Dorfman, an Israeli artist. She took it to a convention that took place from October 19th to October 20th. In Israel called Inside Bitcoins. The headline of this story is Eye of God painting sells for 10,000 euros in Bitcoin. Yoshi Goto, a mining expert who works for Bitmain on their ASICs, purchased the painting for 35 Bitcoins, which is roughly 10,000 euros. It's pretty interesting because he said his motivation behind buying the picture was that he said maybe I was crazy, but I wanted to find a way to use it. He mentions that the only sort of image that's associated with Bitcoin right now is the orange Bitcoin sign, and he kind of wanted this painting to become, I don't know, somewhat of an iconic image. I think that's an interesting idea because with a lot of communities or periods in history or movements or things like that, people love to have kind of an iconic image that represents their feelings or their thoughts, kind of like a visual representation of what they stand for. I think that's something that people like, and it becomes important because when we look back at history, a lot of the really important events are associated with iconic images, and being able to look at an image like that kind of connects us to our past. Maybe just as an example, something like the image of the soldiers raising a flag on Iwo Jima or something like that. But I think artwork like this can be really important to a community's sense of identity and just to representing a moment in time. Now, one interesting thing is that the artist is not really a Bitcoin user or expert. In fact, she's a skeptic, at least that's what the article says, even after learning more about it. She was asked to create this painting specifically for this conference by an Israeli mining hardware specialist, Hashware. What she said is that although she's not that into Bitcoin itself, she was really drawn to the story of Satoshi. Now's a good time to talk about the image itself. It shows the Earth with the sun kind of peeking around the corner, and there's a man in the upper corner with his hand outstretched, and he's the biggest thing in this picture. He's kind of looming over the Earth, and the bottom half of his face is covered by the anonymous Guy Fawkes mask. So she really wanted to capture the essence of Satoshi and this kind of mystery that surrounds him. He has become kind of a mythical figure in the Bitcoin world. And I think it's kind of cool to look at this painting because she did a good job of capturing that, I think. She also kind of wanted to show, by having him looming over the world, that Bitcoin is really something that's kind of trying to change the world. I think that's another thing that you can really see in this painting. The mask is also a nice inclusion. It has connections to the Liberty Movement, which is very closely linked to the Bitcoin community. And I think a lot of people in the community have ties to the mask, or it's a familiar image to a lot of people in this community. Now, something really interesting is that Dorfman, the artist who painted this image, she was kind of having a hard time with her art. She has a degree in fine arts, but it seemed like it wasn't really working out for her, and she's actually trying to go back to school for nutritional science. But after attending this conference and having her paintings sell for that much, she's actually been really encouraged. She said she's using the money to pay for her school expenses, but she's now considering trying to focus on her art again. She's been asked to do another work for another Inside Bitcoins conference in Paris. She says, "I'm not a full-time artist, but maybe I will be now." I think this is great too, just to see people in the community kind of stepping up and embracing something like this, and also giving an artist a chance to really do something. I mean, Bitcoin is a new frontier, and there's room for everybody in it. There's room for computer scientists and designers and developers, for programmers. There's room for entrepreneurs. There's room for artists. And that's a nice way to close out this first segment, I think. There's room for artists here too. This is a frontier. We don't just want to push boundaries in technology. We want to push all the boundaries we can. Hopefully, I'll be bringing you some more stories like this in the future, and maybe we'll continue to see an artistic community flourish in the crypto space. And again, I'm John Stuart. This has been Bitcoin and the Arts, and if you don't know, I write and record all the music on the podcast. If you're interested to check out more, go to johnstewartmusic.com. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to episode 44. All of the music in today's show was from John Stuart. We'll see you next Thursday.